Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. It is 2 o'clock on the dot, so we'll go ahead and get started. Pleased to welcome Kari and Jordy, who will be telling us about the Facebook technology pilot that they did. And Kari and Jordy are from Clinton County, and they're both nutrition educators. So we look forward to hearing what you both have to share with us. Thanks so much. And I do want to note, too, that Kari and Jordy will be taking questions at the end, but feel free to put your questions in the chat as they come to mind, and then we'll just address them at the end of the presentation. Thanks so much, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Catherine.
Well, 2 years ago, Clinton County was able to begin our Facebook technology pilot through FNEP. So we're both FNEP educators. And we had a couple different things to motivate us to request to start doing online lessons. You want to talk about any of the?
In our area, it's very rural. So sometimes when we enroll participants through the nutrition program, it's really hard to get them to commit to those 6 core lessons that we have to deliver to them. We usually find them rescheduling, or because of weather, especially in the winter, it's really hard to get to them. So parts of our county are an hour away from us, from our office, but they're still in Clinton County. So sometimes it's really hard to juggle when they're not going to be available or how we're going to access them. So there was really a need to be able to offer the lessons through distance learning somehow. That's kind of when we came up with the idea for Facebook.
And I think too, probably for everyone, there's it's become more of a cultural norm to seek information from the internet, and this is a way for us to get our programming, kind of in a similar context to what people maybe are accustomed to. So not only like the commute and the ability to reach people, but also that there's a comfort factor for some people, which we'll talk a little bit about what worked. And in some groups, we've had people who actually, preferred that format. So it's nice to be able to kind of meet everyone's needs. We still do group education and home visits in our county because we are a rural county. We still kind of offer the whole variety, but this has been a nice supplement to those.
So we'll get started with our little PowerPoint here. Hopefully everybody can see it okay. So we're just going to start a little bit with the basics. So how we kind of came up with this and how we did it. You have to obviously be on Facebook first. We created a Facebook page so we have our CCE Clinton County page here. So we created our own page that's Nutrition Educators of CCE Clinton County. And by using that page, we're able to create groups under just that name rather than using the whole county page where everybody can see. So we created our own page, and then we had to create a private group for participants to be able to join. It has to be private, so if it was public, then everybody would see maybe what questions you had or what comments or what kind of things maybe you would put up there that you wouldn't want public to see.
And for FNEP in particular, there's confidentiality involved, so we of course, to the private group for that. If you were offering a different kind of online learning, and we have had other videos and stuff that we post just to our regular page, but the private group was really integral in being able to offer this via Facebook. So we figured Facebook was a format that a lot of our participants were already familiar with. They already have Facebook accounts versus, say, for an example, using Zoom, that might seem a little bit unfamiliar to them. So we're taking something they're already familiar with, but we're still able to offer that confidentiality and the interaction. So another part of FNEP, if anyone out there who's watching is in the FNEP program, our lessons are really focused on the interaction between educator and participant. So Facebook kind of is able to offer that via chats, private messaging, things like that.
And the nice thing about the group too is that we can create this group, and then we can go out and if we decide what group we're going to focus. So if, say, Head Start parents, we just did recently, we could create the group for Head Start parents, and then we could go out to the Head Starts, and then we can recruit the people and then have them, we have this group. If you search it, you can join, we'll approve you, and then you can get their surveys that way. So if we know which people are already in our groups, it's easier to collect surveys on that. So we do meet with them in person for the first time to collect their entry survey, and the last time for the exit. So then, like I had said, we invite the participants to join the group. So it usually has some kind of name that would be easy for them to find. So by making a group private, it's still searchable. So it's not a secret group, it's a private group. If it were a secret group, it wouldn't be searchable. They couldn't type into Facebook search and find the name of that group. So private group, and then deliver the lessons on the dates and times. So I'm going to show you quick on here. So here's this is our Nutrition Educators page. To create a group, you just go down here to groups. So these are all the groups that we've created. So we could create a new group. And then it gives you all sorts of options. So you can name your group. You can add people here if you wanted to search people. So I can add Jordy. And then we want to make it a closed group. So if it's public, then anybody can see it. So that might be good if you were doing an event, like we've had open enrollment nights for things like this. You might want to make that public, and then you could always close it later. But we're doing closed here. So then you create it, and then it'll give you, you can add things. So we've added different. If you play around with this, there's ways to add different sections. So we add different sections for our lessons. You can add in videos as on the times and dates of your lessons. So there's a lot of different options. So we can edit group sec. I'll show you how to do this quick. So group type. We usually pick the school or class. And by doing that, that gives you the option to have different
they call them units. Yep.
Units, yep. And then you add your description, everything else. Like I said, there's tons of different options to add in here. Let me just go back to our PowerPoint. Okay. So, practice. We had to practice a lot to make this work. You want to talk about how we started out?
Sure. So at first, very much just Kari and I, maybe we grab a couple other people from the office, but just practice. Honestly, if you don't post a lot of videos of yourself on Facebook, even just getting used to seeing yourself on the screen, I get distracted by it. You probably see me looking up a lot. How to hold things, how to move. So initially we were doing live videos. So I'd log on live, or Kari, but one of us would log on live. People, once we got through that initial practice phase, people were logging on to view us. So it really, in those days, we were holding up, say, our handouts. If I had something I wanted to show people, there was no way to transition when I was on the video. So just knowing what side to hold it up on, because everything's mirrored, things like that. So there was a lot of practice, and I would strongly recommend, if you're going to do any kind of, like I said, even if it's not FNEP and nutrition programming, if you're going to be doing something as a live Facebook, just spend a little bit of time, looking at yourself in the mirror and holding up anything you might want to hold up, messing with the camera, things like that, because there's lighting can be a big issue, the noise. So sometimes Kari and I would separate ourselves in different rooms. So could you hear me there? And just kind of getting into those details, so the public isn't necessarily seeing, or your group isn't seeing all of those little snafus, or how many times you had to flip the page because you had it backwards or something. So there was definitely a lot of practice in that, and we did. I think you can see in the Helpful CCE staff, those are all people who were involved directly with us. Those weren't even participants. But we did a lot of practice with that.
Yeah, our first group of practice was just with people that were in the office. So I'd run downstairs and I'd film something on there, and then I'd come back up and, did you see it? What did it look like? How was it? Was it, so it was a lot of that before we actually went and started enrolling actual participants into it. So over here in this picture with the grocery store ad, this was something we had started. We realized our visuals weren't coming up. A lot of our participants in the survey at the end was saying that the visuals weren't clear and they were hard to read. So we tried this new it was like a studio thing you could do, but the computer just didn't have enough in it to really work the app. So it would just get all kinds of glitches and shut down. We had a couple really crazy live lessons trying to use this, so we had to resort back to what we had and kind of start over from square one. So trial and error. So like we were just saying, these pictures are of when our very first lesson to live participants. So we chuckle because this is really,
we've come a long way. You'll see by the end.
Yeah. So we just had, Jordy, we kind of tried to set up some props in the back to make it, be more visually appealing. This was how we were doing our visuals. So we have a great little visual board.
But as you can see, like, it's not centered, there's glare, like it was, these parts were really, really difficult. And at this point, I think we were just using the webcam on the computer, right?
Yes. So this is a basic laptop webcam.
We had a laptop that we were to change the angle, you had to shift the computer and then, adjust the screen.
Sometimes you couldn't see yourself while you were filming.
Yeah, so. And this would be like, again, we practiced a lot ahead of time, but if it went from, me talking to looking at that visual, there's some maneuvering there. So it was definitely, a little complicated, but doable depending on what you wanted to show and what you were doing. So we definitely had some success in these earlier groups, but as you'll see, we were able to kind of improve for not too much. We were able to kind of upgrade a little bit, and we've made some changes to how we offer the lessons.
Right. So when we started out, we started out by asking participants what time they would feel would be the best time. We found timing to be a variable that really showed us how many people would participate live. So in all of our groups, we did have participants viewed all the lessons mostly, but whether they viewed it live or at a later date, because the lessons would automatically be pre-recorded onto their group page. So if they did miss it, they could go back and watch it later. So we started offering, a couple times before we started the lessons to see which would be the most preferable. So as you can see in this group, everybody picked 12.
Although as CC people, you probably know that it's generally hard to catch people at noon. So this seemed really exciting.
Yeah.
Until.
So I charted, so the first group we offered at 5 p.m. So 80% of the people viewed live. This was an awesome group. It really gave us a lot of confidence when we had this first group. We had a really motivated crowd. And then, 20% viewed it at a later time as opposed to the live. So this is the 12 p.m. group that you saw. Everybody chose 12 p.m. But then we only had 30% of them viewed it live. And then the rest viewed it at a later time. Some of them were viewed even as late as like 11 p.m. at night. So 5:30. So our live views did go back up, but we did still have some more later views. And that could have been for a couple different reasons. And then this is the 11:30 a.m. So as you can see, we only had, like 15% that viewed live, and then the rest was at a later time.
Yeah. So. And I think it definitely would depend on your audience, but I think there's maybe a basic assumption that people probably use social media more in the evening versus, earlier in the day. Mm-hmm. Some of our participants would be working parents, so there's that. Although, maybe they're doing shift work, but maybe at that time, by the time you get to 5:30, you're home, you're able to work. Maybe you're getting dinner ready, but you can have this on. We had people watch it like at their kids' basketball game or different things like that, but they were engaged and responding. So as long as someone was live, it was great wherever they were. And I think that really goes to show how good of an outreach it can be to be able to offer this, because obviously you can't be in two places at once. So for that mom who is interested but also doesn't want to miss the basketball games, and this mom in particular that I'm thinking of, I know has multiple teenagers. So as you can imagine, and work, so her days are busy, her evenings are busy, but she does value nutrition. She wanted more information. So this was a way to kind of, for her to fit it into whatever else she was doing. And she was always comical. She was always doing multitasking. I'm at the grocery store right now. Or, so. it is nice to be able to, because the live, even though we were aiming for live views, people can still watch it, comment on it. You can respond to their comments, even if it's not immediate, even if it's the next business day. You're still seeing what they were asking and when they were asking it.
Right. Okay. So the live lessons versus the pre-recorded lessons. So we finally found something that worked for us as far as making those lessons a little more visually appealing to the participant. So I started using Movavi video software, which we did also play around with Adobe Spark a little. I found this one to be a little more user-friendly for me personally. So we got this, and I first started by making videos for our recipes. So the recipe portion of the nutrition education was really hard to capture on a live lesson, or even trying to just film it, just regularly without editing out certain parts.
Yeah, it can be tedious to watch someone peel and chop maybe a whole carrot.
Yeah.
But if you show them kind of the basics and then use the video editing, you can make that a little bit more brief of a process.
Yes.
And the same thing, I think, for our fitness component. So with FNEP, you'd have a food prep and a fitness component with each lesson. And it's hard, even being two people, to get the camera just right, to stay with the motion, because both things, cooking and the fitness portion, both have movement in them. So how do you focus on that in a way that you can actually see what's going on, not be too zoomed in, not be too far out. So
yeah.
Instead of having to figure all that out live, to be able to do these videos separately was our first step into the pre-recorded format. But it was clear that those were turning out much, much better than our live videos. So.
So we started, and then this year, being our second year into this pilot, we were approved to start trialing pre-recorded nutrition lessons, but they have to be offered in like a live setting. So they're being used for through
Watch Party.
Watch Party.
Yeah. Facebook has a feature that's called Watch Party. So we take the pre-recorded video. People know what time the lesson's going to start, just like they would have for the live lesson. And then, it'll send out a message to everyone in the group, like your watch party's about to start. And now instead of one of us talking during it, it's all recordings of us, giving the lesson. But then there'd still be someone on, like as a moderator, who's answering. So if you're doing a lesson, say, to get moving, and you ask families what kinds of activities do you and your children like to do, and someone says, oh, the weather's been so bad, I don't know what to do. One of us can step in with some of our ideas for things to do when you're stuck inside with your children. So talk about dancing or, whatever it is, but really kind of focus on those indoor activities so we can offer those suggestions still live, and you don't lose the person there.
Yeah.
And that's really a big part, again, of FNEP, to have that interaction.
And we really tailored the pre-recorded lessons to fit that module of waiting that time for the participant to react to what's being asked of them. So the next couple of slides, we're going to show you some examples. This is a visual being used during the live lessons when we first started. So you could see it's kind of, there's a lot of space around it. It's kind of blurry. It's not very visually appealing. You can't really read it. I guess if you have really good eyes, you probably could see it.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But it's a little hard to see.
And the webcam does like an autofocus, so it looked clear for like a millisecond, and then all of a sudden it'd try to like your hand would move slightly. It was, and understandably probably frustrating too for the participant. So we were trying to get it right, but on the back of your mind knowing like this doesn't look how I want it to.
Yeah. So this is a visual being used in the pre-recorded lesson. So I'm going to play this. This is a video. I'm hoping that it plays. So you could kind of see how it's used. It'll be up in the corner of Jordy when she shows.
An intensity scale. The intensity scale ranges from 1, not intense or sedentary, to 10, very intense to the point that we can't work any harder. Sitting or standing would be considered very low or light intensity for most people,
Visual.
and therefore would be a 1 or a 2 on the intensity scale. Sitting down and standing repeatedly is harder than just sitting or just standing. This type of activity is getting to be more in the moderate intensity range, maybe a 3 to a 6 on the intensity scale. an intensity scale.
All right. Let's see if I can switch
Get me
my
on
slide. Okay. So this is an example of the recipe prep when we are offering it live. It's, I mean, I guess it'll speak for itself. So it's kind of hard to operate so that you could really focus right. Like I said, we couldn't cut or zoom or.
At this point, our equipment were our 2 cell phones, like personal cell phones, using those to record them, and then uploading to, our computers. And then there was a lot of steps here, but that's just like a little cell phone video.
Mm-hmm. So, and this is a pre-recorded recipe video. So it's kind of a little long. It's almost 2 minutes long, but this is one of our earlier ones, but one of my favorites. So I paused it in the middle. I don't want to run out of time, but you can watch it on our Facebook page, Nutrition Educators of CC, Clinton County. But you can see, obviously, it's a much more visually appealing. I'll skip to the end.
Photo editing, Kari was able to work in little tricks that, it really makes it look really cool, not just the, taking out the awkward parts. It actually, and the music and stuff, it's definitely a more fun watch, I think, for people.
Yeah. And it brought a lot of people to our Facebook page too, because we started using that as an advertisement to get people to like our nutrition page and, check out extensions. Mm-hmm. So it really did create a lot of foot traffic on our social media pages. So what got in our way? So we did have a lot of hurdles. Camera quality. So you saw in the first slides that we started out with just the basic laptop webcam, and then we switched to it's a Logitech. It's a little bit, quite a bit of an upgrade, I guess, of a webcam. It focuses. It really adjusts to the light. So I remember when we first started filming, there was one light that went out in the room that we filmed in, and it messed up the whole entire video. It was just really dark and it was lit in the room, but the camera wouldn't capture the light difference. So
we don't have a production studio, so
the
camera quality made a huge difference. And the camera wasn't really expensive, but just purchasing that separate webcam made a huge difference in the quality of the footage that we could capture.
And then we had limitations with the Facebook platform. So
like one of the things we've talked a lot about, like say adding the visuals, there was no way, say doing a live video to splice in images. So that we had hoped that with Facebook we could have done that, and then we wouldn't have had to do the pre-recorded, but it ended up, I think it worked out pretty well to do the pre-recorded. Our next one is internet troubleshoot. I don't know if anyone else has this problem, but it seemed like we had one group that every time we went to log on, for whatever reason, the internet would go out for 3 minutes, or, you'd get 30 seconds into a video and then it would just be done, which is very frustrating for your audience. They're trying to watch and all of a sudden you cut out and you cut out again and you cut out again. So the internet was definitely an issue, although with the pre-recorded, we haven't run into that as much because I think it's uploaded and then it's playing. So, and we just luckily also haven't had any internet problems lately, but
and you can also share it through your phone.
If you want to
pop it up on Facebook through your phone.
And let's see. So yeah, the upfront time for the pre-recorded lessons was, it was a big undertaking to make the pre-recorded lessons. So it took me probably about three to 4 days per lesson. But once they're made, it's really about
just
Yep.
putting it up for people and then viewing it with them. So in the long run, it kind of has helped a lot.
Oh yeah, but it is an initial hurdle for sure. It's definitely hugely time consuming initially.
Yeah. Okay. So we were able to do a lot of these upgrades by getting new camera equipment, new sound equipment, a new computer for editing we applied for the innovation grant this year in 2018, and we received it. I attached our award video. So like this is just a video that we put together for our acceptance ceremony. So like this is our very first video, scale testing. We got a lot of attention for our video. And people are like, whoa, started offering classes. Fun things that are going also used it for to promote things for local farmers. So like last fall was the Asian pears. So we made an Asian pear video because they a lot of it to get rid of it.
It's in right now for lost
Yes,
apples. Getting him some apple back.
Sorry, Jordy, sorry to interrupt. I can't really hear you at all over the video.
Okay. So yeah, we were just saying we use the if you saw the STEM, we use that for 4-H. So we were able to use video to kind of promote our local 4-H groups to do some STEM projects, and it was a science experiment. And we've also used to promote like local farmers. So recently we had a farm that had a lot of Asian pears. So we made a video for Asian pears so that they could try to sell, some of their Asian pears. We just got a request from our apple specialist for Ruby Frost apples. So it's kind of another push thing for the recipes.
It's nice because it's usually fresh produce, so it goes along pretty well with what we want to do with FNF anyway. But really all programs kind of, I think, have benefited from this ability to kind of make these videos and have them look polished, and it's something even sometimes to use within, like we used one for annual meeting, things like that. So we've been able to kind of offer these in different audiences, and you can tailor your video, not always for social media, but definitely for a variety of opportunities.
Yep. So I think we can open up for questions if anybody has any question.
Great. We've got a few questions in this chat box. Scroll back up to the top a little. So when you're doing the Facebook lessons, can you attach document files to the comments of the live post?
Yes.
Yep, and we do that typically. We give people, so when we meet initially, so if you're doing FNEP, when we do the enrollment, we meet with them face to face, and we would give them a copy of those things. But in case they don't have them, like, you know, if you're that mom at the basketball game, we are able to attach things in the comment box, and also we'll post multiple things in that unit so they're able to access them. Once we started doing the pre-recorded lessons, we could offer a lot more access to things that might be relevant. But also in the chat box, we'd post, like, say someone asked a question, you know, if we're using a flyer from a grocery store and cabbage was on sale, and the person was like, well, what would I make with cabbage? One of us can, you know, pull from the Fennec website and post a couple different cabbage recipes. So it's kind of neat to be able to offer those extras.
Great. And do you ever try using OBS for live streaming?
Yeah, so that was the, I was trying to fix my thing here to go back to that picture. So we tried using it here, as you could see on the, all the way over with the grocery store flyer. So that was when I had, sorry guys, that's when I had downloaded the OBS, but it wasn't compatible with it like overworked the system, and it just would crash every time I tried offering a lesson through it.
Yeah, I don't think Facebook, I think that was the problem. I don't think Facebook had the capacity for you to be uploading that much stuff at a time.
It was a really unreliable source for us personally. Every lesson that we tried to offer with it, we had so many technology glitches with it that before we finally got things going, we had lost half of our participants because they kind of didn't know what the heck was going on. So we just went back to the regular live method after that.
And what tool did you say you used to create the pre-recorded videos?
That's the Movavi studio. I think I put the official name.
Yep.
Right here. So it's Movavi video software. So I think that it was about $35 for the year.
Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So but it's
reasonably
really
priced software. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you've edited videos before, it sets it up like storyboard, and it's really easy to, you know, pick out and shorten and, you know, edit different. It has like filter options, and I caught on really quickly on how to use it. So
Great. Have you ever heard of Facebook Portal? And what are your thoughts on using that device instead of a laptop with a webcam?
I actually have not looked into Facebook Portal.
I've seen the commercial, and I thought of our lessons, honestly, when we did that. And I don't think it's a bad idea, but it would be a different level. I guess for us right now, you know, we're kind of locked into the pilot of we're doing these pre-recorded lessons this year. We're trying to see how that goes. And Facebook Portal, from what I'm not really up on new technology, but around Christmas time, I saw it come out a lot. And of course, we already had our stuff in for October 1st. So it could be something that we consider, you know, maybe for next year, depending on how things go. But I do think like your picture quality and stuff would be clear. You know, obviously that's kind of made to see the whole room and to move with the move with the person, but it could move with the educator. The one, I don't know, cost-wise, I haven't looked into it at all. So there'd be like a different, potentially a different level of commitment there, but not a bad idea. I just don't personally have a Facebook portal.
And how do you track participants to make sure they complete the 6 lessons?
Oh, okay, that's a good question. I actually might be able to show you. So there's a spot on the page. Actually, Jordy, if you want to talk while I'm trying to search.
Sure, yeah. So no, I totally understand. So and to me, like the beauty of using Facebook for this is it already is tracking that. It shows who watched the video. So right underneath the video, you'll see, you know, within the group, 6 have watched. And when you look, you can, you know, kind of see who's watched. And then when you look at the comments, it actually shows like how far in that they commented. So you can really get a lot of, even when someone wasn't viewing live, you can gather a lot of information. And for nutrition educators out there, all of that is the progression record. You know, really it's all in writing, which is pretty beautiful. But
So you can see here it says seen by 14. So it'll list everybody that has viewed it. And then it'll tell me who has not seen it. Okay. So that's a really easy way to kind of follow along. And it'll when you're playing it, it'll show who's viewing it while you're. So you can see who's on when you're live. It'll say you have 6 people watching, and if you click that, it'll list down who's actually watching at that time. So, yeah.
Excellent. I think those are all the questions, unless I missed any. I'm just scanning back through. Yeah, we couldn't hear you very well over the video, so if there was anything during the videos that you want to re-highlight.
We were really saying that we use the it had showed on one part of the video where it had circled like how many people had viewed on our Facebook page. So we were saying that those recipe videos really created a lot of like traffic on our newsfeed, on our social media pages. And there's a spot on Facebook where you can really see how many people are viewing, and you could see
even like where in the world really that they had viewed it. There was people watching from like Mexico even, to like a guacamole video. It was pretty wild. But it was neat because then more people were seeing when we were offering classes or if we were doing an enrollment, that attention brings people in. And then also to the other program areas, like, oh, I didn't know, Extension did this. So once they're on your social media site or on your website, they see all the other things that are offered through Extension. So it was neat because it would reach sometimes people who already knew about one component of what we did, but maybe not the rest, or, get shared by someone and then it goes out to a whole new group of people. So it's an interesting, format to kind of spread the word. Even when you're not doing your program directly through it, it can be a really innovative way to kind of reach a new audience or people who haven't heard of you yet.
I think you might have already said this, but I'm not sure. In the beginning, when you were talking about creating a Facebook group, what was your decision making around creating a new Facebook profile or page for nutrition education specifically, and then creating a group under that account?
Okay. Well, a lot of the reason for creating the nutrition educator page specifically was so that we could share just nutrition information by itself, so we could really showcase it all on one page. This way we had a place to refer our participants to go for further information. Anybody who likes our nutrition educator page, we usually ask them to like our Cornell page as well, so we invite them to like both pages. But this way our groups, we could just work, so only Jordy, I, and our other nutrition educator, Chelsea, have access to the administrators on that page to really manipulate those groups, as opposed to our e-page, which our whole office kind of has.
Yeah, and really like, especially particularly with FNET, because it's a program that people are enrolling in, they've given us confidential information. For say if they want to post something on like our general page, that's fine, or comment on something on our general page, but then within those groups it's private, so that gives people more, people within the group can see you, but that would happen in a face-to-face group too. If I go to a group and there's 6 people in the room, those 6 people will know that I'm there, but there's a level of confidentiality between the nutrition educator that I'm not going to go and say like, oh, I showed up at my group last night. So I think the confidentiality was another piece. And I'm not sure, so in the question, maybe also like why we decided to try online. And I'd say there's 2 big reasons. I think online format, Facebook, social media has become pretty much a very common cultural thing. So with our participants, we work with parents. So usually people, I'd say most of our participants are probably from 20 to 45, let's say, give or take, but that audience is already pretty familiar with this format. And then, for example, we talked about having that Head Start group, and last year I enrolled a bunch of people parents from Head Starts, and then offered a class right at Head Start at pickup time and then or drop off time. And parents had to come in to drop off their child, so they'd be there, but a lot of them were working parents, so one week they could make it, but then the next week, like, I work the morning shift, I've got to go, I'm in a hurry, or their little sister's sick, I can't stay today. All kinds of things would arise, so that this would be an option for people who really have busy lives and are trying to fit it in. So
yeah, and participants really tend to open up more too if they're on the other side of a computer. So it's a lot easier to really come out and say, like I have insecurities about food, or we're having trouble, having enough food or purchasing enough food. Things that if you're talking to them face to face, they might say,
everything's fine.
Yeah, no, we have it figured out, and we have everything we need. So it's really
weirdly, there's some anonymity just being behind a screen, and I think that does speak to this generation or our generation of people maybe being comfortable in that setting in a way that they might not be as comfortable face to face.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. A couple more questions. Do you access your group through your personal profiles, or have you created CC Educator profiles that you use to administer your page?
Yeah, so I created a FNet profile, so only Jordy, Chelsea, and I have the password to it. And there's no friends on that page, and it's pretty private. So we just use that to operate the Nutrition Educators page.
Sometimes you might see my page or my profile, and Kari and I will log on at the same time, but I only have Facebook for work, so
yeah.
my private profile is actually my work profile. Mm-hmm. So I do follow like other people or whatever, but what people see of mine, I don't have any friends on my page or anything, so no friends.
Yeah. Sometimes personal will pop up sometimes if I'm on the road and I use my phone to respond to our participant. So,
but I would highly recommend having a personal or a
business
yes. account.
Mm-hmm.
So
great. And we don't have FNEP educators in our county, and Eat Smart New York also isn't really allowed to teach in our county because none of their zones are here. So if we want to do a nutrition ed, it's on me as a Hort educator. We do some with our garden-based learning and master food preservers, but I don't have formal nutrition training. Are there videos available to share with other counties, or are these videos available to share with other counties?
So our actual lessons we don't share, only because we need to meet enrollment numbers, so we're trying to get people to enroll to see those. However, our cooking videos, so that our food demos and our fitness stuff is available. So there's certainly things that you could utilize from that, but a lot of our, the nuts and bolts of it, which probably also wouldn't be super appropriate for a 4-H audience of, let's talk about how many vegetables you had for dinner. But there are, like I said, those food prep videos and the fitness. So
yeah, so anything on our Nutrition Educators of CCE Clinton County page is shareable. So the actual lessons, maybe one day we could share outside of the county for other educators to use. But while they're in pilot phase, I think we have to hang on to them for now.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I think those were all the questions that came in. This was really informative. I really appreciate you sharing your experience and what you learned with us.
Awesome.
And one more comment. At CCE Jefferson, we have some food prep videos on YouTube that are shareable too. So.
Okay, awesome.
I'll have to check those out. Thanks, Jefferson.
All right. Well, thank you again, Kari and Jordy. This was really great. And thanks to all the participants for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.